What is up, everybody? I'm your host, Nicole Mendes for 10 Teams, Two Rings, a Big 12 podcast here on Softball America's Network. I'm so excited to get into this week. Holy cow, we have a lot to unpack. Big 12 conference starts, Oklahoma lost, Baylor and Oklahoma State, they're set to match up. It's going to be a lot to get in a short amount of time. But before we even dive into any of that, we have a guest today, a Baylor Bear. I'm super excited to speak with her, but we have Shaylon Govan with us today. Hey girl, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I am so excited to be able to talk to you. I emailed your SAD and I was like, hey, any chance we can get her, anytime we got it done. So I'm really happy to have you on here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here too.
Sweet. Well, I I just wanted to dive in because I think whenever I think of you, I think obviously of offense, right? And I think of just who you are as a hitter. And I just looked you up a little bit, did some research, and I saw last year, 2023, that was your first year at Baylor. You had transferred in before then. Tell me a little bit about what that transfer was like.
Honestly, that transfer it was big for me because growing up, pretty much all I had was Stephen F. Austin, and I always felt like I was the underdog. And so being able to have the opportunity and to come here at Baylor University, which is a great institution, it was a dream for me. And I was happy and super excited that Coach Moore gave me the opportunity, and I just decided to run with it. So.
Yeah. And I also think of clutch. I mean, obviously, you're a great hitter, but you've had moments where you have been so clutch. Obviously, last year, the home run to defeat Oklahoma, their only loss of the season. This year, some of the hits that you have gotten have just been right at the right moment. What goes through your mind? Because there's a lot as a hitter, like
Mhm.
player to player, we're talking now. There's a lot that you have to prep for going into the game of, okay, who are the pitchers? What are they going to throw? What the heck is my game plan? How do I make adjustments at bat to at bat? And then you start to get into the box and you're like, some girls, they like to say, all right, let's hit it to left center. Some girls are like, I'm going to beat this pitcher on the mound. I'm better than her. There's a lot of different ways to approach hitting, which I think is so cool, but I'm really curious, what is your mental approach whenever you're getting into the box?
Yeah, so usually my mental approach, depending on the pitcher, I'm usually picking a side.
Mhm.
Coming out here, the difference, especially between SFA and like now, is pitchers, they are so dominant. They work both sides of the plate, and you have to pick one. And hopefully they don't throw a changeup in there, because that's a whole nother a whole nother thing in there that you have to decide to hit. And that's usually one of the first things I start with, is picking a side. And then I'm always thinking right center. Usually for me, right center, it allows me to get my hands in. And if I'm a tabulate on an inside pitch, like I'm able to still get my hands to the ball. And I'm usually like thinking through each pitch. Like usually if I'm early, I'm like, okay, change, be ready, maybe a changeup's coming. And usually, here at Baylor, they give us pretty good, great scouting reports. So usually I know like maybe what they're throwing, their go-to pitches or their strikeout pitches. So usually like stuff like that's behind in my mind, because sometimes that's too much information. You just want to be able to play the game. But yeah, those are pretty much my things that I stick with. And those allowed me to like my staying behind the ball, getting through the zone, and picking the side of the plate.
Yeah, I love that thought of, okay, let's stick to right center because you know, if I think this one thing fundamentally, like mechanically, my body is going to do what I want it to do.
Yeah.
But just keeping it simple. Another thing that I noticed, you draw a lot of walks. You're really patient. Like obviously you had the power, you had the clutch hits, but you draw a lot of walks and being able to be patient. That is so hard to do, especially with the kind of pitchers that are in this game. And I mean, Baylor, you guys have faced a really tough preseason schedule.
Mhm.
You're opening up with Oklahoma State, and it's only going to get tougher as you head into conference. But how do you approach those at bats when obviously you want to hit, but whenever you're getting walked a couple times a game, like how do you stay patient in the box?
Usually, I'm always trying to find a pitch that I can hit hard. And sometimes, like in my opinion, I'm like, girl, I think you can hit this ball hard. It might be a little too low for maybe the umpire strike liking, but I try to usually get pitches that I feel like I can hit hard, even if it's a strike or a ball. And the pitchers, they nibble on the corner. So knowing that the umpire zone and knowing what a pitcher's maybe go-to pitches, that's kind of how I kind of stay disciplined in the box. And usually kind of picking a side helps, because
Mhm.
if they throw that outside pitch and that's not what I want, and I can, if it's called for a strike, I can usually see kind of where the zone is in the umpire zone, or where their spot is that they would like to hit. So that's kind of how I stay disciplined in the box. So.
Yeah. And so last year, great year, fantastic. With, I mean, you know it because you're on that side. You see 643 charts, there's synergy, there's so much film, there's so much available. As a hitter, it's hard because just like we can expose pitchers, as a hitter, you get exposed, your weaknesses and things like that. And I think it makes it difficult to be successful year after year after year. I mean, obviously, you're great and you are successful, but you have to go into each season knowing, okay, there's something I got to work on. What was your focus that you worked on that you felt, okay, this has paid off in this preseason?
I would say hitting I would say hitting up and in.
Hmm.
A lot of people, like especially getting all this technology, um, I was able to see where my swing and miss heat was. And so after seeing that, I kind of talked to our pitching coach, Coach Newman, and I was able to uh, most of the pitchers that we have in here at Baylor, they were able to hit that spot in practice. Or my pitching coach would be like, okay, this is usually where her heat spot is, where she misses. So we're gonna push her, and we're gonna help you work on those, things when you're facing a power hitter. And getting my hands to that pitch, that pitch is just so hard to hit. Like, and being able to get my hands there, and knowing that I get my hands there and not second guessing it,
Hmm.
has been very big for me. Ever after I had the surgery on my like labrum, that was kind of
Yeah.
like a thing where I was like, how am I going to get to these pitches? And I've worked on that, and I feel like I pretty much I'm getting back to where I was, especially
Yeah.
in that regard. But yeah, just being able to trust my hands after last year, and being able to hit pitches that are hard, because at some point you're going to have to hit those pitches, like those pitcher pitches, in those tight strikes, in those tight counts and stuff like that. So I think that was kind of a lot what I was working on this break.
Yeah, and I've been there, done that. Injuries are tough,
Mhm.
and you're just sitting there and practicing, like, man, I want to be in the middle of things and I can't. And you get really sad. I think you get really sad no matter what, but you either get really sad and you don't do anything about it, or you're like, okay, how can I do something? Mental, physical, how can I learn a little bit about the game? I felt like I learned a lot
Mhm.
during the injury. I feel like I've heard a lot of people talk about that. What'd you learn whenever you were injured getting back?
I just learned, and I just like poured into my teammates.
Mhm.
My teammates, they would ask me how I seen it from the dugout, or what they thought during the situation, and just pouring into my teammates kind of helped me not think about myself. Yeah, and so having them and learning from their eye and their situation, and even like growing my relationship with them, and seeing just how they work, like each individual works.
Mhm.
That's definitely helped me in growing a closer bond to them. And just seeing how maybe like one of my friends swing works, and like how she feels about it. And then I can be like, okay, well, this is what I see. And this is like, I know this is how you do it. So then we just work together, and they do the same for me. And it's just great. It was great, honestly, seeing it from the backside in the fall, because in the fall, that's hard grind, and seeing
Yeah.
them grind it out and me on the side, it made me want to play for them more. Like, and it just made me a better teammate for them. So
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
speaking of, you guys, this class, this team, there's a lot of upperclassmen. Um, you go through the trenches together after a couple years and the bond gets really tight, and not a lot of teams have the ability to be able to talk to their teammates and say, hey, like, I've noticed this in your swing, and to be able to communicate that and the teammate go, wow, yeah, thanks, I'll adjust that, I'll work on that, or them feel comfortable to come to you. I think that's so important whenever you're trying to adjust and learn in game, right? And you definitely have noticed you guys, Baylor, have flipped a switch this year. Tell me a little bit about team environment. Like, you're talking about wanting to go to battle for them. Tell me about what feels different from last year to this year.
This year it's just last year was more about getting Baylor to where we deserve to be. And I feel like we ran with that last year, and it was more about getting like the program's confidence and our confidence back up for this program. And I feel like after last season we definitely got that, and we knew that we were just like, y'all, we can do this. Like, this is not a fluke. Like, we have everyone, we worked hard, we have the coaches, we have everything we need right here. And having that, and then bringing it back to this year, we came up with our motto and one. And our motto basically is, who we're playing for, God, the man above. And we're always thinking about that and one rep. So we're hitting maybe, and we don't like that swing, and Coach Moore is like, okay, you got to get out. And he's like, no, Coach Moore, I'm about to get this last swing to get it in. Or we've just been having that and one mentality, like we're gonna do the extra mile, and that has definitely helped this team grow. And not only mentally but like physically. Sometimes Coach Moore is like, okay, y'all, our mottos and one, we're gonna get another sprint in, and we're like, okay, whatever, now you taking
Oh,
it too
you
far.
got me
Yeah,
there. You got me there,
I
coach.
know. And so I just feel like bringing that mentality every day, and having it in the game. We're always staying in the game. We're always reminding ourselves, and just having those goals set at the beginning of season, and then adding our motto in. I think that's really helped us take it to another level.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the mentality of like doing just enough isn't good enough. You have
Mhm.
to go that extra mile. You have to do that extra effort, that extra stretch, you know?
Yeah.
But that gets hard in
Mhm.
preseason, especially. You have no time to practice. You're on
Yeah.
the road. You're trying to figure out your new classes and you're never there. And you're across the country, time zones changing. It's hard in preseason, and it's a challenge to stick to whatever your motto is, whatever the team decided at the beginning of the season. Like,
Yeah.
I've been there, I've done that. I know the challenge because there's so much chaos going
Mhm.
on. It's hard to drown out that noise. How have you been able, as you as an individual, have you been able to stay okay and one, stay locked into that? Because that's hard.
Yeah. I feel like I've just been grounded in my teammates, and grounded in the word. I mean, I feel like here at Baylor we just have so many good mentors, and I can walk into their office any day, and we can pray together, we can talk about everything that has been going on mentally, physically. Like, it doesn't matter. I can walk in their any office, and I feel like that has been like, for our team, since we're so close, we really see each other as sisters. And if we're like breaking down, want to cry, we're in someone's room, we're in in someone's office, like it does not matter. And I feel like that has kept us like afloat. um and it just continues to I feel like it just continues to get stronger as like we've gone through those. In like California, we went through those games where we had to fight that extra, for that extra rep or that extra ball. And I just feel like that continued to show. And it just shows that we just continue to have each other's back whenever we are against the wall. So
I love that. I
yeah.
love that. Well, two last questions and then I'll let you go. But you guys have game today. You go to Sam Houston,
Hmm.
game at home tomorrow on Wednesday, and then you open up conference with Oklahoma State. I personally, I am so excited because I love to see the teams in the Big 12 get the recognition that they deserve because there's so much talent in Big 12.
Mhm.
And you hear like, okay, there's the Pac, okay, there's the SEC, ACC, all of a sudden they have a ton of new teams. I'm like, what about the Big 12? Give us some love. And
Right.
I feel like this year I'm like, finally, we have 4 teams in the top 10, top 15. And it's just so fun to see how well these teams have been playing. So as you guys head into conference, is there any kind of reset? Is there any kind of mindset change? What has that been like?
No, it's definitely a reset,
Mhm.
especially for, especially this week and then going into that. That's a lot of games and it's
Yeah.
going to be mentally challenging. And I feel like um, one thing that we did after this weekend was like, okay, now we have to hit the reset button. And know that now, like we already played at a high level, but now it's even higher. Like, and so I feel like the reset button definitely started this weekend, and we're just trying to make sure we get our feet back under us and fill everything out, and make sure that our hitting, our fielding, everything is on its P's and Q's this week and going into the weekend.
Yeah, and the weekend. I mean, I know as a team, if you look too far ahead, you're gonna miss what's right in front of you.
Mhm.
But I can't help but ask, this is Big 12. This is the start, and all eyes are gonna be on you. All eyes are gonna be on Oklahoma State. Both of you have looked so great in preseason. You've done some great stuff. What you got your first taste of playing against Oklahoma State. It was in their house, their fans, I mean,
Oh yeah,
fans are
they're
crazy,
crazy.
they're rowdy, and now finally you're like, "Okay, we get to be in our house, we get to be at home," especially after all the travel. Tell me a little bit about your emotions going into this matchup because it's always fun playing OSU, so tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, when you play OSU, you got to have a little extra
Ugh,
swag on you. You got to
yeah.
have a little extra. They're a great team, and they continue to do everything right. And we just have to, play our game. It's going to be a great game for both of us because it's both challenging. And when you get to Big 12, anything can happen. You never know. Yeah, you never know what can happen. And going into that matchup, I just feel like for us, the mentality that we need to take in is the mentality we had at Mary Nutter and more.
Mhm.
Knowing that it's going to be a dogfight, knowing that it's probably going to take all of our energy out on the first day, but it's okay. We're going to come back the next day. We're going to give even more. And, it's just always great playing everyone in the Big 12 because everyone in the Big 12 is good. You can't
Yeah,
pass anyone out. And having like, to me, I feel like Big 12 has some of the best pitchers in the country. And
yeah,
having to get go through this week, our game today, our game tomorrow, and then having about a day to be able to figure out honestly the pitchers and hit those pitches.
mhm.
I feel like it's hard, but we're definitely going to get through and just allow us to have still that and one mentality and just up our reset after resetting, just up our game even more for Big 12s because it's going to be fun.
Yeah. Well, I was already a fan before. This is my first time ever talking to you. I was already a fan before, just watching you and how you play. I mean, it's just so fun. You bring a lot of joy into your game. You bring a lot of energy into your game, but to get to see you as a person, outside of being a player, just being able to talk softball, this has been such a blast. So thank you for giving me your time. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna be tuning in this week, and I am so excited about this matchup. I can't wait.
Yes, I'm excited too. And thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Bye,
Thank you.
girl.
Bye.
Okay, so wow, she was amazing. Like I said, I wasn't just saying that. I'm a fan. I think that and one mentality is so good because a lot of teams, it's hard to go, okay, this is good enough. No, you got to go a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Baylor, they have a lot of upperclassmen, and so just being able to work, chip away, regain that confidence, and then being able to finish strong. That was big for them last year. Heading into this year, you see that, okay, we have the confidence, but that's not enough. We got to push just a little bit more. I'm really, really excited about that matchup. Before we get going, let's just do a little around the horn because it's the first week of conference. Big 12 is finally here. So, going around the horn, we have Baylor at Oklahoma State. I mean, that's the headliner for sure. If you're going to watch any game, I mean, not even in the Big 12, if you're going to watch any game, this is a game that you should be watching. At least catch one of the games this weekend. It's going to be a fun series. Both of those teams are really scrappy. They battle back and forth. So I think that'll be a great matchup. OU, they're playing Iowa State. Again, another good matchup. Iowa State, they always play chippy. You have BYU versus Texas Tech. Okay. BYU, they haven't had quite the preseason schedule that some of the teams in the Big 12 had. They haven't have to face against those top challengers, but the teams that they've been playing, they have been beating them very soundly. And I was talking with our producer before I started the podcast, and he was saying they have like 30 punts. I mean, they are aggressive. They're going to push the limits. Talk about and one, right? They're going to push the envelope and see how far can I make this go? How much pressure can I apply on this defense? How can I get them off guard? For me, BYU is going to be that team where if you drop a game to them, it's going to affect the standings. I especially think about Baylor, Oklahoma State, Texas, and OU. Those four teams, they're going to have to make sure that they lock in against BYU whenever their time comes. Texas Tech, though, they have some power. They have pop. They have the offense. So defensive, I think for them prepping for this week defensively, it's getting ready for the small ball, getting ready for expect the unexpected, aggressive base running, all of that. Texas Tech, if they're on their game, they should be able to have a good battle with BYU. Um, we have Texas versus U of H. U of H, again, another newcomer into the conference. Texas has looked so good. I'm going to go into depth with them a little bit later, but they have looked so good. I expect them to continue and just carry the momentum that they gained in preseason and just carry it through conference as they get better and better and better. So preseason, it's like, okay, let's get some top wins. Let's test our team. Let's figure out how does our team work? What does our lineup look like? What is our defense going to look like? And you just shake off the rust. You get back into the groove of things. Once preseason's over, you head into conference, and that's whenever teams, okay, lineup set, you know your rotations, and teams just get better and better and better with all those extra reps. They get sharper, they get cleaner. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Texas does, not just this first weekend, opening weekend, but as it continues. And then the last matchup is UCF versus Kansas. Again, another good one, another newcomer this year in the Big 12. It's going to be different just because year after year, Big 12 has been used to having just 7 teams in the conference for softball and playing each other over and over. Now, all of a sudden, you have these scouts that you have to prepare against teams that you don't normally play against. This is different. This is new. So I think they definitely have an advantage in that aspect of, yes, you can watch film and you can have scouts, but they've never really seen you before. They don't know the coaches of consistently playing against him year after year. So that is kind of the grand tour of what opening weekend for Big 12 is going to look like. I'm looking at this and I'm just so excited. But we have to talk about it. We have to talk about what everybody is thinking. It's the elephant in the room. Oklahoma, what the heck? Not only did they lose, I think UL did such a good job of preparing for that game. I guarantee after they got run ruled by Oklahoma on Saturday, they went back to their hotel. Jerry Glasgow said, let's watch film. What do we need to do to beat this team? What do we need to do to adjust? We can't be doing the same thing. And they really deep dived into it. And you could tell from the pitching to the offense to a lot of squeeze plays, a lot of swing and miss, steals, all of that. They put the pressure on Oklahoma and they looked good. They looked good. And I don't want to take that away from you all because they did everything right. Couple of bumbles here and there, but for the most part, they did enough right to get the win. regardless of whatever Oklahoma did. They did enough right. They looked good. They looked confident. They looked clean. But Oklahoma, 3 official errors. There was at least 2 that I know of that should have been marked as errors. I mean, if it hits your glove and it's not like a full out extension diving play, that needs to be made. And so I would say there's 5 errors, unofficially, 5 errors in that game. Um, a lot of base running mistakes, which again, uncharacteristic. Oklahoma looked nervous. They looked nervous. They looked rushed. And typically you don't see that from them. You're used to seeing them calm, cool, collected. They've been in those situations. They've had their backs against the wall. They've always managed to fight their way out of it. A historic win streak, 71 wins in a row, was snapped on Sunday. It is what it is. It is what it is. And I think you all tweeted something out about streaks are meant to be broken. It's done. It's over with. And if you're Oklahoma, you say, that was nice. Okay, I want to win a national championship. I don't care about a win streak. I don't care about all that. I want to win a national championship. They're searching for their 4th in a row. It has never been done before. And the championship doesn't happen in preseason. It doesn't happen in conference. It happens in May and June. So getting reset, getting to know their new stadium, Loves Field, getting to be able to get some practices in. We talked earlier on in the show about whenever you're in preseason, you don't have a ton of real practices. You travel and you kind of like get the swings in, your basic defense, but you don't get real practices in preseason. It's really difficult, especially if you don't live on the West Coast or down in the South. The weather is not ideal. Um, they'll get a ton of practices. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Oklahoma in their bounce back this weekend against Iowa State. They have a midweek against A&M against A&M Commerce. So I'm excited to see that game, their bounce back, their response, but also I just want to see what they look like come opening weekend of Big 12 conference. So it's there. Let's talk about Love's Field because yes, and if you want to rag on me, you can, but this is so great, not just for Oklahoma, but for softball in general as a whole. It has set an entirely new standard of what softball stadiums in the country should look like. We saw it whenever LSU built their stadium. Standard rose. We saw it whenever Texas A&M built their stadium. Standard rose again. Clemson, a first-year team, built their stadium. Standard risen. Oklahoma has set a new standard. I mean, I walked into that ballpark and I was like, this looks like a professional field. The crowd, the way it was set, the attention to detail, everything in that stadium was amazing. So I am so excited about what this means for the sport because there's so many little girls that will go to those games and they'll say, "This is normal. I expect this." And whenever you expect things, you don't have to ask for them. You demand them. And I think for women's sports, it's a huge step forward. So I love Love's Field, what Love's Travel Stops has done to be able to contribute to that. Jenny Love, a fantastic person. I'm just excited to see in the next 5 to 10 years, whenever teams start to build new stadiums with all the conference realignments, you know it's going to happen. There's going to have to be upgrades made to a lot of stadiums. I'm excited to see what those look like because now teams can go and point and they go, this is the standard. Like, if we want to get the best recruits, this is what it needs to look like. And it's going to push those other conferences, those ADs are going to have to stop and recognize and be like, we need to give softball the moment it deserves. We need to give them the stadiums that they deserve because there's so many great teams out there that the stadiums that they're playing in do not equal that out. So I'm so excited about the future and what the sport is going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years. But that field, if you have the chance to go to Love's Field, you should take it. I mean, it is beautiful. And I mean, if you listen to me at all, whenever I was calling Flow softball during preseason, especially Mary Nutter, there's kettle corn and I can smell it. My mouth just watered. I can smell it. I can think of it. I'm dreaming of it. That they Oklahoma has kettle corn that they sell. And I may have gotten a bag or two before the weekend was over. It was fantastic. So make sure you check that out. BYU, I talked about them a little bit, making a splash, being able to come out. They're going to be the team that if they can steal one away from Texas, one away from Oklahoma, they can steal one away from here and there. It's going to dramatically change this conference and the standings. It's going to dramatically change the matchups for the Big 12 tournament. It's going to be tight. I think of BYU. I think of UCF. They're another team like that. Those two, especially because they're new. And so I talked about, okay, how do I adjust? How do I plan? Like, I know of these teams, I know of these coaches, but you're not playing against them year after year. This is an adjustment, it's new. I think they're going to slip one over this conference and it's just going to adjust the ranking. So if you're a Big 12 team, you can't be taking them lightly. Moving on, Texas. I love the way that they're playing. Holy cow. Last year to this year, big time difference. And I mean, with the addition of ton of great freshmen, great recruiting class that's come in and they're like, you know what? I'm here. I'm fine. I'm ready to go. Like I'm eager, I'm hungry, and they have just gone in and haven't stopped. I think the biggest challenge is whenever you go in preseason. This isn't just for Texas specifically, but just as a softball player, as a team, preseason is crazy. And then you roll into conference after pretty much a month straight of traveling, of a ton of double headers, a ton of games. Like the volume of games that you get in preseason is ridiculous. It's crazy. So if you're Texas, how do you reset and think about this next half of your season? So think of preseason as a mini season, conference, another mini season, and then postseason, that's your last and final mini season. They're shifting gears. They're shifting to go on the road, ton of games to in-depth prep because now you're playing teams 3 times in a row. It's not just we have to win this one game. It's we want to win 2 of these games and we want to get the sweep. And if you're Texas, there's a little bit more dialing in that you have to do. Um, they look great. I think if they can maintain consistency throughout this conference, like you said, you get to know your teammates, you get to build, you get the rhythm. They had that rhythm, they had the momentum. If they can carry it through, they're gonna be up there. I mean, right now in polls, they're one in some, two in others. They're going to be neck and neck with Oklahoma. I think everybody in the world is waiting for this OU Texas matchup that's going to happen later on this season. It's going to be the grand crescendo. I think you're going to see two heavyweights just battle it out, duke it out. This is such a win for softball. Again, games like that is going to bring fans to the sport. So if you're Texas, consistency is key. I'm really looking forward to seeing how their rotations look in conference whenever they're playing a 3-game series. Who do they go to? Who's their starting arms? Who's their main relief pitcher? Because again, the one-offs, you can do those, but whenever you're playing the same team back to back to back, there's a different style, there's a different strategy that comes into it. And Mike White, he's fantastic pitching coach. He's really smart whenever he calls his pitches. And Washington, she has done such a great job. She's the captain of Texas this year, just leading this team. Last thing that I want to remind you guys of, if you're going to watch a game this weekend, watch Baylor versus OSU. That is going to be such a good matchup. Baylor, they have been nibbling at that top 10. They started in that lower 25 range and they have just worked their way up. They have scratched, clawed, grinded, gotten their way up. Had a really good outing at Mary Nutter. That definitely helped them. But they're right at that 10 mark, 7, 10, 11 mark. OSU, they came out really hot and there was a 2-week period during Clearwater. They missed a ton of like top games, but they also lost a lot of games whenever it got rained out. They stayed they had the impromptu, "Hey, Tim, Walton, you wanna just make a game happen a day from now?" And it gets picked up, they get the game, it's on national television, it was incredible, but they had a really tough 2 weeks of being on the road straight and then coming back again, body wear and tear. So for them, being able to find rest, being able to reset, get some practices in, being in your own bed helps a ton, but they're gonna have to travel yet again to Baylor. That's gonna be a challenge, but I mean, if you're not used to traveling by now, if you're Oklahoma State, I don't know if you ever will be. I don't even know how many games that they have been on the road for. It's just been an absolute massive grind of a preseason for them. So they're well equipped for a road game, but I'm excited to see that matchup. I think it's going to be a good one. So that's all I have for you guys this week. Big 12. It's here. It's here to stay. It is impressive. There's some heavyweights in this conference. There's some dark horses in this conference. It's going to be a good one. Make sure you subscribe, like your messages, leave some comments in this video. Um, Tell me what you want to see. Tell me who you want to see, who you want me to interview. I'm going to try to bring in more interviews. I think it's going to be a fun season that I'm going to get to cover. I can't wait to bring you guys along for the ride. I'm your host, Nicole Mendes. This is the Big 12 podcast, 10 teams, 2 rings by Softball America Networks. I can't wait until next week. It's going to be a good one.